Our minds are always thinking. How come then we don't take a moment to consider how we think? Because we are preoccupied with worries, regrets, and other thoughts that make us repeat the same thoughts. The Muses reveal to Hesiod that to understand thought, one must understand life. There is a link that Hesiod will allude to between being alive and having a mind. It is true that there is not one person whose mind does not sink when exposed to worries and regret. No matter our nationality or culture, our beliefs or our way of life, we are thinking beings, capable of reason, understanding, and intelligence. But we are also beings whose thoughts often remind us of our mistakes. Our thoughts sometimes are ambitions that push us to chase fame, glory, and success, but these same ambitions also shame us when we have not yet achieved our goals. Our thoughts are pushing us towards a goal, but some thoughts are so dangerous that they push us to seek our own end. Will dying free us from this prison in our mind? Why is it that we are capable of being aware of such things as being alive and being thoughtful? We can all enter a secret dimension in our mind and see things existing as if they are in front of us. Where do all these thoughts come from? The Muses reveal to Hesiod that the answers to these questions are found in how we look at life. Whatever we interact with, thoughts cross our mind. If we encounter something we have seen before, then our thoughts are marked with familiarity. If we encounter something new, then our thoughts are marked with curiosity. And here is the truth. Our thoughts shape the way we live. Do we all think the same thing when interacting with the world? Some people in the same city can share the same experience. For example, they see a building or a landmark on their way to work or school. Some people will remember something happy about this encounter, while others may remember something sad. And yet, each of these same experiences can be known by other people, since we all understand the same journeys our diverse thoughts lead to. We can have the same reactions and also have totally different reactions. In the same way, people can look similar and still be different. The dimension of the mind appears to be endlessly diverse and inexhaustible in its impressions. Our minds are always thinking of things, and when they occasionally stop, in a state of deep sleep, we come close to death. The Muses reveal to Hesiod that there is a mystical connection between life and thinking, by guiding him with subtlety on seeing the world differently. To be alive is to be conscious. To be conscious is to be alive. The more conscious we are, the more alive we feel. The origin of these thoughts rests in the eternal state of being of the gods, as they interact with each other's thoughts. In the world of the intellect, or Nous, the Muses point Hesiod where he can see the truth, and bring his attention by looking at the sea. Then, without pleasant love, she bore the barren sea with its swollen waves, Pontus, and when she lay with heaven, and bore deep whirling Oceanus and Koios. We can stop and think about what the Muses want Hesiod to understand. Why did they mention these details? At first glance, the great bodies of water look the same, but a closer inspection will show how different they are. Their difference comes from how they were initially approached. Rhea, without Uranus, produces Pontus, which is the sea, but with Uranus, she produces the ocean. The first difference between them is their state of being. Look at the activity of the waves in each. Pontus has swollen waves, but Okeanos has deep whirls. The distinction between Pontus and Okeanos stresses that there is a distinction among living beings. Not everyone and not everything is equal. What makes one better than the other is their state of being. Yes, they are both alive, but one's life is dynamic, full of action, but also uncertainty, whereas the other is stable, but he is familiar and known and reliable. What is familiar comes from Pontus. What is strange and curious comes from Oceanus. This makes the distinction connected with a level of awareness each living being possesses. There is a link between water and life. Later philosophers would discuss this connection, and what is certain is that life on Earth cannot exist without water. So here is the secret. The quality of our thoughts leads to a better life. Like water, what is thrown in it will affect how we see it. What we can see from our own experience with the bodies of water is that they are great in number and great in variety. So if water represents life, then life exists in abundance and comes in an endless variety. Life adapts and continues to change, and so will thoughts. They will always change, repeat into what is familiar, and become something new and curious. This division of the divine beings creates an awareness that our thinking leads us to discriminate that some thoughts are better than others. This leads to a hierarchy of thoughts, just as it does with living beings as well. There is a difference in the state of being of each living thing. Some are higher and better than others. This hierarchy of life and of the mind is ultimately what the interaction of Gaia with Uranus creates. This union between foundations and change leading to a goal creates the complexity of life and also of thinking, just as the union between foundations and inertia creates what is simple and unchanging. And so the Muses reveal this by mentioning the existence of the god Koios or Kreios, who is focused on questioning, on trying to understand, on intelligence itself. It is through him that all conscious beings are pulled to wonder, to go deeper, and to begin the process of understanding. The very fact that we can think of higher thoughts is because of the existence of the god Koios. Thinking can be random and lead us to confusion, but by doing the action, we connect to intelligence. Once we connect with the activity of the god Koios, we become aware of each path from each type of thought. By thinking about the different gods, we will see the world differently, and our lives will change to match what we see. The first gods coming from the union of Uranus and Gaia are focused on the quality of conscious thought. Some thoughts lead to fruition and open the way to success. Some thoughts lead nowhere and are not as fruitful. The Muses represent all knowledge, including not only facts, ideas, and truths, but also our own delusions, our ambitions, and our false beliefs about the world. Our thoughts can connect to things that are true as well as to things that are false. Some thoughts are opinions, some thoughts are facts. Later philosophers would discuss these divisions of knowledge as opinion and belief, or doxa, as being different from established fact. Just as life builds on itself, knowledge also builds on itself, and this is known as science, or episteme. Let's take a moment and fill our minds with new and curious thoughts. Science, or episteme, is a systematic learning leading to intelligence and reason, and also a better understanding of our place in the world. Science is divided into specialties, as in techni, or techni, meaning the knowledge of useful skills and crafts. This is what allowed us to create tools. One skill can lead to discover 10 other skills. A focused mind will keep growing and expanding, like how everything alive does by its nature. The Muses then mention names in succession to show the pluralistic and abundant aspects of life and thought. The gods are not explained in the verses as to what they represent, but with knowledge of the origin of names and words, and also stories told further on in the poem, and also by what is known in the common culture of that time, we can deduce what the gods represent, using our intelligence, and how they expand our minds to have greater insight and actually develop this intelligence. Hesiod received mystical knowledge from the Muses with subtlety, which is why he doesn't over-explain things. Experience of life, just as knowledge of words, are necessary to understand something that may require years to discover and appreciate. Once we experience something, we instantly have an understanding of it through intuition, whereas when we have not yet experienced something, no amount of words or description can actually make us connect to that idea or concept. The Muses reveal the names of the gods in succession. Then, Kreios, Iapetos, Hyperion, Theia, Rhea, Themis, Mnemosyne, Tethys, and Phoebe, golden crowned. These are the gods connected to life. They come first, followed by the gods who represent the mind. We can be overwhelmed whenever we are faced with too much information. Why are there so many gods? Wouldn't it be easier to make all these beings one single being? The plural aspect of the mind shows how complex that one concept of mind actually is. There is one intellectual realm, one Nous, one concept of consciousness, and yet we all experience it in many different ways. Life itself is full of variations and distinctions. Life is complex and pluralistic, bountiful and diverse. The mind is the same way. The gods experience the truth all at once, not by the progression of time, which is relevant to our experience. All paths begin and end with the activity of the gods. They are forever focused on one notion, but that thought sends ripples of itself as it divides itself and creates difference, as it spreads to influence other beings. Difference is caused by division. Division requires pluralism. What is the hidden truth behind the Muses' teaching? The gods are forever focused on one notion, while remaining aware of each other. Later philosophers would describe these unique focused thoughts as principles, whose continuous interactions have the causal effect of shaping all forms of matter, life, and thought. They can be described as Henads or Henads. This oneness is not limiting or restricting. It is a one that allows for others to exist. The concept of union, or anosis, implies the existence of others with whom one can join. Otherwise, the gods would be monads, or monas, which is a one that is absolutely alone. That would cancel any other thought or action, forever doing one thing alone, since doing anything else would be impossible. So we should think of the first gods as being connected with life and consciousness. By thinking of what is higher, we will expand and become godlike in our appreciation of life. Who are the gods of life and consciousness that the Muses mention as being at the beginning? The first of them are the gods of the intellectual realm. Kreios is focused on emergence. We experience the appearance of things and awareness of the movement that makes things suddenly affirm their existence. It is through him that all conscious beings become aware of thoughts as we encounter their presence that continue to grow and grow in our minds. Through him, we become conscious of the appearance of the stars and every movement that makes things appear. Iapetos is focused on the notion of focus itself, the ability to hone in and quickly pierce into the core of a thought. It is through him that all conscious beings are able to grasp something in a deeper and more profound way with their minds by ignoring all other thoughts. He is the father of Prometheus and Epimetheus, who created mankind, so the creation of mankind is an act of focus. All actions of creation are born from focus. Hyperion, or Hyperion, is focused on the idea of rising above, on the movement that makes some things rise above and beyond their original station. It is through him that all conscious beings are able to aim for higher thoughts, to choose complex concepts instead of lower thoughts, and consequently, to rise above other conscious beings. Authority in its various degrees exists because of his mental focus. Authority and hierarchy come because of Hyperion. There are thoughts that are above others, and there are gods that are above other gods. He is the father of Helios, Selene, and Eos, who are the ones rising above the horizon, bringing about the sun, the moon, and the dawn respectively. Theia, also called Evriphaesa, meaning white shining, is focused on what expands. Through her, our thoughts become more and more complex. All expansion comes from her. Our thoughts can be simple, but through expansion they become divine and godly, the best of the best. She makes things shine above others, as gold does compared to regular stones. The measure of what is divine and godly, compared to what is normal and mundane, exists because of her focus on excellence. It is through her that conscious beings are able to recognize what is divine in our thoughts and what shines in life through a love of excellence. Rhea is focused on succession. Through her we experience the ever-flowing aspect of our thoughts. Things lead to other things, and we can either follow or be carried by these currents of our mental activity. We get distracted and lose our focus because our awareness is dynamic, originating in chaos. Our mind moves and connects with other thoughts. It is through her that conscious beings are able to change their mindsets and allow themselves to think of other things. Themis is focused on stability. Things must be settling down or else they would be unrecognizable. That is why we're always putting things in their proper places, on what settles down after the process of thinking and sorting things out, of the end goal of consciousness itself. Things must join with other things to form patterns, sets, definitions, and significations. Thoughts and sounds all join together to form long-lasting learning in clearly defined concepts and words. Traditions, customs, and laws are the end results of a continuous process of thoughts that have settled down to become what they are known by. It is through her that conscious beings are able to see thoughts as parts of systems, groups, and sets. Our mental processes would make no sense without this putting things into place. Mnemosyne is focused on memory. We all remember things, recalling thoughts that we have already experienced. Thoughts repeat and we remember encountering them, which allow us to escape always thinking of the same things as if they are new and strange. We are free to follow where the thoughts lead to. It is through her that data is contained in things, and that conscious beings are able to recognize this information stored in everything. Tethys, or Tethys, is focused on derivation. We are capable of deriving smaller things from greater things, on bringing out what leads to other paths or patterns because of her. This derivation of a thought from another thought leads to explanations, or even a new set of thoughts. It is through her that conscious beings are able to expand on what was said or thought by others, or by our own minds, putting the ever-changing flux of chaos into good use. Phoebe, or Phoebe, also called Golden Crowned, or Chrysostephanos, is focused on clarity and purity. The feeling of reverence, of venerating what is ancient, of worshipping what is holy, comes from her. This is how concepts can be passed on to other generations, by preservation and protection. It is by seeing things as precious that we are inclined to protect them. It is through her that conscious beings are able to keep ideas and words to mean exactly what they mean, through a determination of preventing corruption and ambiguity. It is through her that conscious beings become attached to what they revere. Getting out of continuous cycles of worry and regret is possible if we choose to think of higher principles. These principles are part of the realm of the mind, and they are part of consciousness. The gods are conscious, and their mental activity elevates our own. Thinking of the gods will push our thoughts to great concepts and ideas. This is how we begin our great journeys into the greatness of existence.